Welcome to TradeTheNBA.com. This is John. This report is for the 14th. We had a nice little bump that pushed us to new highs on the ES. NBI White clearly took the lead, but again, we pointed this out with Magenta NBI leading. All you get was a little short cover from it. The rising shakeout continuing on its way. Science still under red, though starting to creep back up, so we could start to see a little closeout here. It's again, everyone's building their anticipation towards tomorrow's big Trump Putin meeting in Alaska. Probably much to do about nothing, but regardless, still the puts and calls have to be traded in between during the week. So you just get some back and forth. The economic numbers, pretty much as we expected, were just sort of caught in a malaise. The spending, for the government went through the roof again. So just more of the same. Nothing's really changed that much. The likelihood of a recession, though, much lower. Doesn't mean that there isn't going to be erratic growth spurts, but the Fed is certainly not participating in any kind of growth enhancement, and they don't really look all that excited to even think about cutting rates. So uh, there's that. Still decent for the market. The real question becomes the energy and whether or not over time that's going to get less expensive or more. Now, if there's a deal with Russia to normalize things, then you really have the potential for lower oil prices, which by cause will generate definite economic growth in a serious way that would really leave the Fed stuck having to, you know, move lower with rates simply because there won't be inflation, and that's reflected right here. And you're getting close to the edge of it, low 60s. You still need to be in the low to mid 50s to really spark anything, but it's definitely a move in the right direction. It's better than when it was heading towards the 70s and 80s, that's for sure. And it's still relatively elevated overall. Nobody's crying any, but Russia definitely wants to see some changes because there's been an impact on their production with the attacks from Ukraine and that, and so ending that conflict would certainly uh, make things better for them, at least as far as economically dealing with the rest of the world. If even if Europe is left out of it, and that may be the ultimate goal, is just to have Trump move the whole war footing to Europeans and let them work it out and see what that's going to do for them and see how much money wants to flood into the euros to support that war effort. For now, it's doing pretty good because everyone's really been against the dollar just to try and bet against Trump overall. Don't think that's probably going to work out all that great for them, but we'll see. From a gold standpoint, not a whole lot of activity. Again, we're still going to be stuck in that range. It's not going to implode or anything simply because, again, with the massive debt that you see globally, the alternative currency setup is still strong. Bitcoin made new highs, didn't close at that level, but that's not really the point. Uh, Everyone's still looking for an alternative, one that isn't going to be hampered by this continued debasement, which doesn't appear to slow down or stop. And so when you have that alternative class and so many industries moving into it, as well as governments, its popularity is there. It's not going away. And certainly from a third world standpoint, it becomes very attractive because it's an opportunity to hedge against what you used to have to be forced into dollars. Gives you a separate class that you can limit your own inflation versus whatever's happening in your capital markets versus what the U.S. and Europeans are doing as far as their debt ratio, and it just makes it more complicated for the U.S. to be the sole dominant player as far as economic terms. And we look at our 50K here. We had the just subtle breakdown of the magenta below the 33. You can see that started a little bit of a cascade lower, and then it was until MBI White started to rise that you started to get some weakness, but still held up pretty well right around that 76%. And that was because of the reset of the steel coming from there. Once the steel moved back above the negative 13, that's all it did was support price from that level. So that was key. Now, if you had just the opposite, if the steel had been above, you certainly would have expected and seen a lot deeper decline from that. And that makes a significant difference overall in the readings when that takes place. We see MBR weight taking the lead right now. Magenta's still above it, but below that 25, so we might see a little bit more extended weakness from this going forward. Still shouldn't be too anything really that significant as far as dip goes. What you saw here was the nice little option move, big jump in the morning, and then they boom faded it all the way down, and then later in the day brought it right back up to the same. So a net zero. And then the Asian session pretty much dull, and then European has been a little bit soft, though they've come back off those lows. So yeah, we just continue to play around in this summer fashion, and it's just because there really isn't a clarification. You know, we'll see if the change in actual statistics and stuff starting to go forward, if it's more accurate or not, and can you even believe what it's going to be telling us? Government has so ruined its credibility now that you really have to go to outside sources. And it's something we've been doing for, geez, quite some years now, because once the Fed took over things from 2008, nothing has been clear, accurate, or what you could call reliable. But people still trade off of it, so we still follow it, though it just gives us broader insight as to when things are just, I don't want to call it fake, but just blown out of proportion relative to what we really see. And the algos pretty much tell us that. Wherever the big money's going, that's what you want to follow. As always, know anything relevant, I'll put it on our team chat. Have a good one. Trade well.